Also in history, we get to see big picture. Sometimes we look at things and this is the way they are and this is the way they are now, but no, they have not always been like that. We get to see how we got to this particular point. I use the picture of the soldiers. Now we start with the picture of the soldiers in Afghanistan, but go all the way backwards. And this is just back to the beginning of the 20th century, during the First World War, the doughboys. What that soldier brought to the field of battle was, got a little bit of swagger. He got the hands up in the doughboys. What he came armed to battle with through World War I and into World War II with a new advent of technology and new types of warfare. Airborne soldiers. To the troops in Vietnam, being brought onto the battlefield with helicopters that had never happened before. To the soldiers today that are armed with all different types of technology that the doughboy probably could not even dare to dream about. You bring to the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan and into future wars, what that might be like. So, history. In our study of history, we see the progress. It doesn't have to be military, technological, it can be social. It can be a number of different changes that we have seen occur through the course of time. So history, our study of history, gives us a big picture. Another reason we study history, and one of the reasons I really love to study history, are the inspirational stories. The great stories that history has to offer. The story of Molly Pitcher, when her husband fell in battle during the American Revolution, that she took his place on the battlefield. Or from July 2nd, 1863, during the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg on Little Round Top, when the fate of the entire Union Army depended upon what happened on that hill that afternoon. And Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain and his 20th Maine were facing an assault by the Confederates, a regiment from Alabama, making assault after assault, running out of ammunition. What did he decide to do? Instead of sitting and waiting, he decided to take it charge. Or, during the civil rights years, the stories of Martin Luther King Jr. and the inspirational stories of what the civil rights workers and demonstrators went through to achieve their goals and to change America. History is full of these stories. And these, through history classes and in the study of history, that's where we keep these stories alive, and that's where we continue to bring these stories from one generation to another. History also helps give us a reason for living, a purpose. Jefferson said it, if a nation expects to be free, it expects what never was and never will be. The stories of people that have, similar to that last topic of inspiration and courage, but the story of people who have changed the world. If that person can make a change, if that group can bring about a change, like the suffragettes, Susan B. Anthony, Carrie Chapman Catt, if they are willing to take a cause like the right to vote for women and to continue to crusade and push for it, or like Mother Teresa, to make a difference in the world, those are the stories that are worth telling, and those stories encourage us to continue to make history. Another reason for our study of history is history gives us a connection to others over time. I had the opportunity to stand in New York, in the very same place where George Washington took the oath of office as the first president of the United States. I think anyone, if you're ever there in Manhattan, you can do that. Just walking around Manhattan, I don't know if you've ever been to Manhattan, but just walk around lower Manhattan, the sense of history that you can feel there. You can stand in the same place where George Washington was inaugurated president. You can walk not too far, and you can come to one of the oldest churches in America, an old Dutch church from the colonial era, built in the 1600s. Then you can continue your walk down to the lower tip of Manhattan and go to Battery Park, an American fortress built during the War of 1812. From there, you can take a ferry ride out to Ellis Island, to the Statue of Liberty, a place where many Americans, many immigrants entered the United States from Europe to the United States to be where they were. I can be where my great-grandparents entered the United States, Ellis Island. You can walk a little further up. You can go by Wall Street. And you can imagine in 1929, when the stock market crashed, all the people that panicked there. And you walk a little further in lower Manhattan, and you come to a place where the World Trade Center stood. All that walk was one afternoon. It's there. History is where you are. I use the inaugurations from Lincoln in the Civil War, to Roosevelt in the Great Depression, to Barack Obama in 2008, the country's first African-American president. Same spot. History is there, and history is waiting. We are connected. Another reason why history gives us the will to dream, or the desire to dream, and hope for more. Robert Kennedy, I love these words. There are those that look at things the way they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask, why not? Late 1800s, people probably told the Wright brothers, you're crazy. You're crazy to want to fly. That's ridiculous. Yet 1903, although it was only a few seconds, Orville and Wilbur Wright were able to sustain human flight. Within 30 years, 1927, Charles Lindbergh, a young man, was able to take a plane to Spirit of St. Louis and fly from New York to Paris. Only took him 33 hours, but he was able to get there. Just a few decades following, we were in space, and in 1969, men were walking on the moon when Apollo 11 and Neil Armstrong accomplished the first successful moon landing. We were on the moon. So history teaches us, we can accomplish things. Dare to dream big. And also, one of the reasons I love history, and I know my time's running short, I love history because I love the stories. I absolutely love the stories of history. And if you ever, I don't know if any of you have me for U.S. history, when I get to World War II, I stop. Because I love the story of Max and Joe. A boxing match. What is this? Max Schmeling, the German heavyweight champion, Joe Louis, the American heavyweight champion, met in New York City, in Yankee Stadium in 1938. And in a boxing match, a short boxing match, for a moment in time, Max and Joe were the center of the world's attention. But not because they were great fighters. They were the center of the world's attention because Max Schmeling was from Germany. And Germany at that time was Hitler's Nazi Germany. Joe Louis was from the United States of America. Democracy, liberty, freedom. And the irony is, here's Joe Louis, we're in the USA. And in the United States of America, someone like Joe Louis, who looked like Joe Louis, would be segregated against. But Joe Louis and Max Schmeling fought an epic fight. Louis knocked Schmeling out. There's a picture of the knockout happened fast. Years later, I'm going to let your history teacher share the story, but years later, Joe Louis and Max Schmeling would become best of friends. History has some of the most fascinating stories to tell, and we as history teachers have that opportunity to tell that story. And so I leave you with this from Abraham Lincoln. And you can find this in history. You can have anything you want. You want it badly enough. You can be anything you want to be. Do anything you set out to accomplish if you hold to that desire and with a singleness of purpose. And we learn that lesson as we study history. Thank you guys very much.